Have you ever made decisions in your business, in your career, in your profession that turned out to be the wrong decisions after you made those decisions? Have you ever made decisions that appear to be the right decision until after a while you discovered that if you had spent more time looking at the facts analytically and critically, you would have discovered a better decision that you should have made, and then you even found out that that decision you made is going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you something valuable? Have you ever wondered why people who work smart earn at least 10 times more than people who work hard? In my study and in my observation, I've come to discover that people who work hard, doing laborious tasks, doing repetitive tasks, while earning minimal income or minimum wage for protracted periods of time, for years, without being able to move beyond that level, they do that because they are lazy in thinking. They lack a core skill that is known as critical thinking. And the people who earn more, who earn 10 times more because they work smart without doing repetitive and mundane tasks, who basically just use their imagination to generate wealth, they do so because they have the ability to think critically. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 secrets that can help you become a better thinker or a critical thinker. And I'm going to be basing the points that I'll be sharing with you on biblical kings that I have actually studied. Did you know that kings had a very uncanny ability to think critically? In fact, it was a requirement for them to be able to succeed as a king. And that's why you see kings having lots of advisors around them, because the work of a king was so important that kingdoms fell apart when kings failed to do their due diligence in thinking critically, whether it involved going into battle for war or it just involved running the kingdom affairs. Now you may wonder, why is it so important to learn critical thinking from kings? Now think about it. Imagine 2 women standing before King Solomon, and they are both claiming to be the mother of a child because the child of one of the 2 mothers was dead, and now they are before the king and they expect the king to decide, to make a judgment, to give counsel, to make a decision based on what they have said to him on who the mother of the child was. And this was the predicament King Solomon found himself. If King Solomon were to go by the superficial knowledge or the superficial information that they could supply to him at that very instant, he would have failed in providing the right judgment and in making the right decision. Now, this is the predicament most people in our current times find themselves in, the era where you go on the internet and you find information on a superficial level, and you see people promoting that information, and it turns into a propaganda because people are no longer diligent enough. People are now lazy in their thinking to fact check the things they see online, or to do critical analysis of the information they find online or of the claims that people make to them. And so critical thinking skill is one of the most sought for skills in our world today. In fact, according to the World Economic Forum report for the past few years, critical thinking skills, complex problem solving skills, and creativity are among the top 5 skills that every industry and every organization is seeking for across geographies. And so if you want to excel as a professional or as a business entrepreneur, you want to develop your critical thinking skills more than ever before. And so Solomon was able to solve that complex situation with the help of critical thinking. Now, what does the term critical thinking even mean, you may wonder? Well, critical thinking is the ability for you to analyze facts from both sides before making your assumptions or conclusions. Critical thinking is what helps you to evaluate conventional ways of doing things and look at the pros and the cons of these ways of doing things and come up with a more advanced and a more optimized way of doing that thing or solving that problem. Critical thinking is what helped Ben Carson when he wanted to do an operation on the conjoined twins. He spent days and weeks and even months critically analyzing the data that was available on that procedure called the hemispherectomy. And after doing that critical analysis, he weighed the pros and the cons of taking that approach. He figured out why the people who did it before failed, and then he came up with an optimized way to carry out that procedure, and he succeeded at doing it because he did it by engaging critical thinking. So have you ever made decisions that you found out were wrong because you did not have the complete facts before? Have you ever made decisions that came out to be the wrong decision because you made the decisions too fast? Have you ever made decisions in your business, in your career, in your profession that turned out to be the wrong decisions after you made those decisions? Have you ever made decisions that appear to be the right decision until after a while you discovered that if you had spent more time looking at the facts analytically and critically, you would have discovered a better decision that you should have made, and then you even found out that that decision you made is going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you something valuable? Well, you don't need anyone to tell you how important critical thinking is. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 powerful tips that can help you become a better thinker, a more critical thinker, and a more effective problem solver. Now, the first thing I'm going to share with you is that you have to be ready to seek wisdom above all else. Solomon was a man who understood this better than anyone. He became king at the time, and the first thing he did when he became king was to offer a burnt offering. He made a sacrifice. He offered 1,000 burnt offerings, and when he offered 1,000 burnt offerings, I believe that heaven recognized that act of sacrifice. Heaven recognized that act of commitment. And the Bible says that God appeared to him in the night and told him, "What would you want me to do for you?" And guess what Solomon did? Instead of asking for the life of his enemies, instead of asking for wealth, instead of asking for more kingdoms, he asked for wisdom and knowledge. In the book of 2 Chronicles 1 verse 10, and I'll read it to you, the Bible says, Solomon said, "Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before these people. For who can judge this thy people that is so great?" That is so profound, right? Solomon could have asked for anything. He could have asked for something more tangible, but he asked for something intangible. And this is one of the core attributes of critical thinkers. They understand the importance of wisdom and knowledge in taking any decision. They understand the importance of getting insight into reality, and that's what wisdom means. The Greek word for wisdom is Sophia, and Sophia means insight into reality. So when you're seeking wisdom, you're seeking insight into reality. So in order to be a critical thinker, you want to go for wisdom, you want to go for knowledge, you want to deepen your knowledge wells by learning. So in order for you to be more critical in your thinking and in your analysis, you have to feed your mind with knowledge. You have to open up yourself to wisdom, because you cannot give what you don't have, and you cannot lead where you have not gone. So you have to have something to say. You have to be someone whose knowledge well run deep. And that was what Solomon was doing. Maybe you're listening to this and you don't see the importance of investing in yourself knowledge-wise, going for knowledge and paying for knowledge. That was exactly what Solomon demonstrated. He paid, or he made a sacrifice, and God asked him, "What do you want in exchange, or what do you want?" And Solomon said, "I want knowledge, I want wisdom." How many times have you paid to learn something that you need will take you to the next level in your journey as an entrepreneur, as a business person, or as a career person? Well, that is the first step to being a critical thinker. You want to be someone that seeks wisdom at all costs. The Bible says, "Buy wisdom and sell it not." And that was the words of Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived. So how much premium do you place on getting knowledge, getting wisdom, and getting understanding? The Bible says, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. But in all thy getting, get understanding." If you want to be a critical thinker, someone that makes the right decisions in business, in profession, in politics, whatever field that you find yourself, you want to get wisdom. You want to get understanding. You want to get knowledge. The Bible says, "By wisdom a house is built, by understanding it is established, and by knowledge the rooms are filled with precious treasures." Right? So you want to go for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in your chosen field and in every other related field, so that you can become a critical thinker, so that you can understand the moving parts when making decisions generally. And this was something that Ben Carson even did. He epitomized it. When he was a young boy, his mother helped him to kind of jumpstart his creativity by causing him to read books. And Ben Carson discovered that as he read books across different fields and across different areas, he was able to make connections between different concepts, and he had an understanding, a mental putting together of these different concepts and how they relate. And so this is something that will help you become a better thinker and a more critical thinker and a more efficient problem solver. So my question for you is, how much are you willing to invest in yourself to get the relevant knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in your chosen craft or in your chosen field? Well, the extent to which you're willing to go in investing in yourself, knowledge-wise, in investing in your mind, is the extent to which you'll be able to display your critical thinking abilities. There's a famous saying that if you empty your pocket and fill your mind is going to end up filling your pocket. And that was what happened for Solomon. After Solomon received wisdom by actually asking, when God appeared to him, he became the wealthiest man, because wealth and riches are companions of wisdom. So when you go for wisdom, go for insight, seek knowledge, and you apply that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding adequately and appropriately, wealth and riches will find its way to your pocket, will find its way to your home, will find its way to your bank account. Now, the next thing I'm going to share with you on how to become a better thinker or a more critical thinker is this: learn to plan and strategize. Now, this was something David did so well. When the Philistines came against him in the book of 1 Samuel 5, verse 17 to 19, the Bible says that David inquired of the Lord. He said, shall I go up? Will you deliver them to my hand? Will I overpower them? Will I overcome them? And if you study that verse and that chapter, God told him not to go against them at that time. And God gave him a strategy on how to, prepare and how to tackle the Philistines in that particular scenario. Most kings who are successful are fond of doing that. And that's why it makes sense to think like a king, because kings always go for war and they always go for battle with a plan and a strategy. Most successful kings are kings that know how to plan and strategize. They know how to, investigate. They know how to research their opponent's strategy and also come up with a superior strategy. And so, if you want to be a better thinker, a more critical thinker, you want to learn the art of planning and strategizing. And this alone will take your game to the next level as an entrepreneur, as a professional, or what have you. Critical thinkers don't act impulsively. David never rushed into any battle. He would always seek God's face before he went into any battle. And this was one of his cardinal secrets that made him a success, that helped him conquer many territories and many nations. And so, for you as a professional, if you want to dominate your industry, if you want to conquer your contemporaries, you want to learn how to plan. Now, here's how to plan. You break down big tasks into smaller tasks over a period of time and take them on one after the other, or strategize on ways that you can achieve something with your limited resources so that you can come out tops despite your limited resources. Instead of complaining about your lack of resources, coming up with a strategy on how to use the limited resource you already have is what will help you succeed. When the widow who was in debt and had 2 sons came to Elisha and was crying before the prophet and saying, "Oh, I don't have money. Your son, my husband, he left a huge debt, and there's nobody to help me." Guess what? Elisha gave her a plan and he gave her a strategy. He asked her, "What do you have? What do you have in your house?" And she said, "I have nothing but just a little jar of oil." You see, when you have no plan and strategy, you won't be able to optimize the little skills, the little resources that you have. And so Elisha gave her a plan, and because he gave her a plan, she was able to maximize her resources. The same thing happened for Jesus when he was in the scenario when there was just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. He told the disciples, make the multitude sit down in a company of 50 and 100. That was a plan. That was a strategy, right? Even though Jesus was expecting the miraculous, he also had a plan. He also had a strategy to make the miracles more effective, right? So if you want to become an effective thinker, a strategic, critical thinker, you want to learn how to plan and strategize by studying the game of winning and learning how to use these strategies and formations to succeed in your endeavors. Now, this brings me to my next point on how to become a better critical thinker. Surround yourself with advisors. Every king that did well in their reign or succeeds in their reign, whether in contemporary times or in modern times, is known to always seek counsel from advisors. Seek good counsel from advisors. Don't be someone who surrounds himself with yes men, people who would only say, "Oh yes, you did it, you got it well, you got it correctly," or people who always only say yes to your instructions and not question your approach or suggest a better approach or critically analyze your solution that you're providing for a particular situation or scenario. You want to surround yourself with people who are critical, and it takes being an individual who is secure in himself to be able to accommodate critical thinkers around them, so that by the time they go in or go out or go before the public with their solutions or with their ideas, it is already airtight. It has already been tested in the boardroom with advisors, with counselors. Even Solomon said, where there is multitude of counselors, there's safety. To be a good critical thinker, you want to be someone who consults with advisors. You want to surround yourself with people who are wise. You want to surround yourself with people who are smart, people who are ahead of you, people who are specialists in what they do, people who also have, an open mind, people who are exposed, people who learn, people who are with thirst and a hunger for knowledge, not people who are set in their ways, nor people who are sycophants, who will only tell you, yes, sir, yes, ma, oh, you got it right, even when you're not getting it right. Now, that brings me to point number 4. In being a good critical thinker, you want to face your fears. Every king who succeeded in their time were known to be people who faced their fears. Not people who ran away from their fears, not people who denied their fears, but people who acknowledged their fears, punch fear in their face because they faced their fears. Acknowledging your fears doesn't make you weak, right? Acknowledging your fears makes you understand that there's something before you, there's an obstacle before you that needs to be overcome. But when you run away from your fears, I've already confirmed that you don't even deserve to win. But when you face your fears like David faced Goliath, that battle is 50% done. And that was the thing Saul did not have. Saul was too scared to face the fears when Goliath showed up. And David showed up and faced Goliath squarely, and because of the courage and the faith he displayed, he was able to take down Goliath. So to develop your critical thinking, you want to be able to face your fears, because when you're trying to make decisions based on your critical thinking analysis, you may come across things that will pose as obstacles, or that will pose as fears, things that no one has ever tried before, or things that people have tried and failed at before. And it will require someone who is bold and courageous to be able to surmount and overcome those challenges through critical thinking. And that brings me to the last point on how to be a better critical thinker. And that is, you want to innovate and solve problems. The hallmark of a critical thinker is to develop creative and innovative solutions and solve problems while doing that. So if you want to be a critical thinker, you want to have a mindset of innovation and problem solving. You want to learn how to be a better innovator. You want to surround yourself with people who can innovate and solve problems in your domain and even in other domains that you are interested in. And that brings me to the story of Uzziah the king. Uzziah the king was just 16 years old when he became king, but he surrounded himself with people who had understanding of the visions of God, like Zechariah the prophet. And you see this in the book of 2 Chronicles 26, if you read it from verse 1. Now, in verse 15, the Bible tells us the achievements of Uzziah as a young king, and some of those achievements include being able to invent engines that were innovated and invented by cunning men. And you see that in the Bible in 2 Corinthians 26 verse 15. And they invented engines, they invented machines that will help them do battle more effectively, that will help them throw great stones from over the walls of their city or of their country. And he was able to lead that invention and innovation because he was someone who exhibited critical thinking. He was someone who was able to look at the convention, look at what was available, look at the pros and the cons, and figure out a better way to do what needed to be done. And because he did that, his kingdom was successful during his reign, at least as long as he remained a critical thinker who had the fear of God in him. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I believe that this has blessed you. I want you to let me know in the comment section, what is the number one thing that is stopping you from being a critical thinker in your business, in your family, or in your career. Thank you for listening. I hope this blessed you. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.